Well, we just got what I call make weight from Justice Alito. He said he was going to dissent over the 1 a.m. emergency stay issued by the United States Supreme Court early on Saturday morning, in which it effectively told the Trump administration with a wagging finger, you are not to deport anybody out of the Northern District of Texas to El Salvador or anywhere else until we tell you so. Because they already are deeply skeptical, of course, that the Trump administration will abide by their prior ruling to give due process and notice and due process as required by the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution, even to the undocumented. Having seen, as we all did, the Trump administration scold and taunt not only the United States Supreme Court, not only the judges of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, but Americans by saying, nah, taking a New York Times headline and writing over it like they were doing some graffiti in a schoolhouse, drawing penises and other things on it. Oh no, you'll never get Abrego Garcia back. He was MS-13. Let me edit this for you, Senator Van Hollen. Supreme Court has eyes, they have ears, they saw that, and they didn't like it. Now, Alito files his 5-pager, which is just holding up his end of the bargain. But I think the most interesting thing of it is he himself warns the Trump administration not to violate the Supreme Court's orders. It's buried at the end, the very last paragraph, but I'm going to lead with it right here on this particular hot take. Speaking of leading, while we've got your attention, hit that subscribe button. It's for free. It gives you the reminders you need on all the videos here on Legal AF. We're building this network and this channel with our bare hands and with your help. And we're already at about 70,000 to 80,000 new subscribers a month. Please be that next one. Hit that subscribe button. Let's turn to this fast-moving story. Can't get any faster. The Supreme Court never moves this fast. I never saw a bunch of 60 and 70-year-olds move this fast since the Senior Olympics. All right? 1 a.m., I get woken up by the Midas team in a text chain. It like blows up my phone. Bing, 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 bing. We've got a ruling. We got a ruling on what? So we start in Texas. American Civil Liberties Union tries to stop with habeas corpus petitions, as instructed 2 weeks ago by the United States Supreme Court in a case called JGG that was pending before Judge Boasberg in the District of Columbia. Boom. But then after the Supreme Court ruled, they said, well, they get due process. They get constitutional rights, but not in your court. We don't like it in D.C. Send it to wherever they're being deported from. That's Texas in this case. A little place called Blue Bonnet. Sounds idyllic. Sounds like I'd like to stay there at some sort of Verbo or Airbnb. But in the reality, it is a processing center. No, a detention center for these people who are being boarded onto planes in the middle of the night with no due process and sent to El Salvador. So the Supreme Court, how did the Supreme Court get involved? Judge Hendricks, Northern District of Texas, takes a look at the papers. Yeah, I believe the government. I don't think they're going to do it in the middle of the night, despite the fact that they are going to do it in the middle of the night. So I'm not going to issue your temporary restraining order. Let me take another look at it. Everybody goes away. Then the plaintiffs get new information through their lawyers, the American Civil Liberties Union, with affidavits that they are fueling the planes and they're on it. I mean, let's just put it this way. These guys are almost in their seats are almost in their upright and locked positions. And the snack trays are also closed. See what I mean? Okay. And trust me, there are no flight attendants on this flight. They're chained together. It looks like, Bane in the beginning of one of the Batman movies. They're all just strapped along a rack, I'm sure, ready to go. So they file these new information with a new TRO in front of Judge Hendricks, and they file it. And the clock is ticking and the planes are fueling and they don't get a response from Hendricks, Some judges, like Judge Zinnis in Maryland's like, I'm working 24/7. Everybody cancel your vacations. Buckle up. Judge Hendricks is not one of those judges, having been appointed by Trump. So they don't get an answer. 45 minutes later, boom, they file an emergency application to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, dominated by Trumpers, they don't see a problem either. Well, we don't, the niceties of procedure require that, we have briefs with red ribbons and wax seals, and you fill it out wearing a wig and some sort of quill pen, while these guys are being deported away from the jurisdiction of federal courts and away from the Supreme Court's ruling. So the ACLU didn't like that. Breathlessly, they file something with Boasberg, the chief judge in D.C. You had jurisdiction once before. Can't you give us some sort of order, temporary restraining order on notice? Because these notices they were given were in English, not Spanish. And Boasberg goes, I'd love to help you, but I don't have jurisdiction anymore. It's in Texas. They run back to Texas. No response. This is for those that are listening to me. I'm doing my own artist rendering of the frantic nature of the good lawyering going on by the American Civil Liberties Union. Now we filed an emergency petition early on Saturday with the Supreme Court of the United States. It goes to who? Justice Alito first, because he sits over Texas on all things Texas appeal. He sees it. He's like, well, I'm not going to issue a stay on this. I'll send it over to the full panel. Full panel sees it, and 7 out of 9 go, yeah, we don't trust the Trump. I mean, they don't say this. I'm reading between the lines. We are deeply skeptical of the Trump administration. We don't trust them. We all saw the posting where he made fun of Senator Van Hollen, Trump did, on his White House official social media page. So why don't we do this? Ground the planes. Solicitor General, Donald Trump's former criminal defense lawyer, when you get around to it, send us a brief. We'll do the 2 briefs. In the meantime, turn off the planes. Good ruling. You'd think that's reasonable. But Alito, who could have issued the stay and didn't, he issues his 5-pager. Let me read to you from the back. From the back. Have I made this a cliffhanger yet? This is the last paragraph. And I think it also reflects that even Alito, somewhere deep inside, deep inside, I'm not looking for his heart. This isn't the Grinch that stole Christmas. Just deep inside, there's some reservations about whether Donald Trump and the administration are going to abide by the Supreme Court's orders. Here's what he says. Last paragraph, last page, page 5, Alito in dissent, just issued a few minutes ago. Both the executive and judiciary have an obligation to follow the law. Interesting. The executive must proceed under the terms of our order in Trump versus JGG, which we issued 9-0, came out 2 weeks ago, which, just to remind everybody, that requires that by writ of habeas corpus, everybody be given proper notice and an opportunity to be heard in court by a federal judge before they're loaded into planes. That's the order. So again, with that as the backdrop, listen to these words of somebody that could not be more Trumper than Alito. The executive must proceed under the terms of our order, and this court should follow established procedures. In other words, the make weight here is, well, we need to follow our procedures. And it was only 45 minutes and it was Good Friday and it was a holiday and all of this. And we're not sure we have jurisdiction. That's the rest of this for 4 pages. And it's extraordinary. And there wasn't enough briefing, even though there's never enough briefing when it's a shadow docket. And we haven't had the time. And why are we moving so fast? At the end, buried at the end, is a little bit of a finger wag from Alito, surprisingly. You, executive branch, you must proceed under the terms of our order. Must. Not, well, we're not sure what that means. And, like in the other case, it's like a spelling bee. Facilitate the release from a prison. Can you use it in a sentence? I don't know what facilitate means. Yeah, facilitate means abide by the Constitution and the United States Supreme Court rulings. So that's interesting. Is there anything else interesting in his 5 pages? Not really. The right wing is all upset about class actions. They don't like 2 things, at least Alito and Thomas Stone and Gorsuch. They don't like nationwide injunctions coming off of class actions. They want judges to stay in their lane. You just rule on these 2 parties in front of you, even if it's a constitutional interpretation, and don't issue nationwide injunctions. Well, you have to. I mean, that is a tool in the toolbox because Trump's out of control. What are you going to say? If you're born in Idaho, you're a citizen, but if you're born in New York, you're not, because we don't have injunctions that cover the whole state? We're ridiculous. So is there anything else? Let me just see. Is there anything else that's really that interesting? Not really. It's like the timeline. We had 45 minutes. It was Good Friday. And all this other whining. What about is that what our founding fathers and our framers said? Is that what our founding fathers said in that scorcher of a July 1776 when they were writing everything, or they got together in the Continental, for the Congress? Oh, it's so hot in here. It's a holiday. Let's forget the Declaration or the Bill of Rights. Let's go get a pint. We didn't say that. It's embarrassing. Anyway, we're going to continue to follow. This is a fast-moving story. John Sauer, I just did a hot take on it up here on Legal AF. Have I mentioned to you that we're looking for more subscribers? Hit the subscribe button. Continue to grow this pro-democracy channel. So I did a separate hot take about the filing that already came in also today. See, very, very busy on Saturdays and Sundays. From John Sauer, the Solicitor General of the United States, former criminal defense lawyer for Donald Trump, about what his position is. Now they got their 2 pieces of paper. They got this ridiculous who knows what from Alito. And now they're going to make their decision. Can the Supreme Court count to 5? And what I think they're going to do is they're going to keep the order in place, grounding those planes, give the Fifth Circuit time to do whatever it's doing, which is not good. Then when they're done, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court will take it back on a full briefing and a full record in a week or two, and then make decisions while they hold the ring. What I mean by that is the liberty of these individuals to stop them from being deported beyond because once they're beyond the jurisdiction of the United States, they're done. By accident, not by accident. I mean, they're done. They're baked. So that's what we're watching. I'm glad you're here. You're on Legal AF. I'm Michael Popok. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.